Hi, we're Group 6. Today we are going to talk about one of the most inefficient political scandals in South Korea's recent history, the impeachment of former President Park Geun-Hye. Park Geun-hye was South Korea's 11th president and the first woman to hold the position. She took office in 2013, but her term was cut short in 2017 after she was impeached due to a major corruption scandal. This scandal involved bribery, abuse of power, and allowing a close friend who had no official position to influence state affairs. The news sparked nationwide protests with millions of citizens taking to the streets demanding her resignation. Eventually, the National Assembly voted to impeach her, and the Constitutional Court confirmed the decisions. She was removed from office, arrested, and later sentenced to a long prison term. This case had a huge impact on South Korea politics. It showed how public pressures and democratic institutions can hold even the most powerful leaders accountable. It also led to major discussion about transparency, corruption, and political reform in the country.
On 9 December 2016, South Korean President Park Geun-hye was impeached following a political scandal involving interventions to the presidency from her aide, Choi Soon-sil. The National Assembly voted overwhelmingly to suspend Park's presidential powers and duties, prompting Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-ahn to assume the role of acting president, while the Constitutional Court deliberated. On 10 March 2017, the court unanimously upheld the impeachment, officially removing Park from the office. The presidential election was advanced to 9 May 2017, resulting in the election of Moon Jae-in, who Park had narrowly defeated in the 2012 presidential election. Later, Park was sentenced to 25 years in prison and fined a total of 20 billion Korean won, approximately 17.86 million US dollars. In December of 2021, President Moon pardoned her on compassionate grounds.
Next is a discussion of key offenses, crimes, and relevant South Korea laws and corresponding punishment. Park Geun-hye, the 11th president of South Korea, received tens of billions won from conglomerate, example Samsung, via her confidant Choi Soon-sil. These had offended the Criminal Act, Article 129 bribery, and were found guilty up to life imprisonment or minimum 10 years with fines. She also been offended Criminal Act Article 123 abuse of authority with maximum up to 5 years or suspension of qualifications by pressuring companies to donate the foundation that controlled by Choi Soon-sil. Furthermore, the Criminal Act Article 324 coercion was violated because of the forced donations to MIR and K-Sport foundations. These were found guilty for up to 5 years or fines. The action of Park shared presidential and classified state documents with Choi had infringed the Presidential Records Management Acts, and the maximum of its penalty was up to 7 years. Last, the penalty go against Public Official Election Act will be various or lesser offences in her case when she interferes with party nominations.
The second part of the discussion examines the implications for the country, individuals, and organizations. First and foremost, the corruption scandal had significant repercussions for South Korea. Politically, It set a precedent for reform and civic engagement, as it marked the first time a South Korean president was legally impeached and removed from office through democratic process. However, the scandal also led to a collapse of public trust in top leadership and government institutions. It exposed systemic corruption, particularly the problematic ties between large conglomerates and the government, revealing how deeply intertwined business and political interests had become. Besides that, the scandal had lasting consequences for key figures involved. Park Geun-Hye, South Korea's first democratically elected president to be impeached, faced a dramatic fall from grace. She was tried, convicted, and sentenced to 18 years in prison, later increased to 20 years, for charges including abuse of power, extortion, and influence peddling. Her close associate, Choi Soon-sil, was also imprisoned. Although Park was eventually pardoned, her legacy remains tarnished, and she has become a symbol of elite misconduct and shadow governance, where unelected individuals exert undue influence over state affairs. Another prominent figure implicated was Lee Jae-yong, the heir of Samsung, who was convicted of bribery and served time in jail. His case underscored the extent to which corporate leaders were entangled in the scandal. Major corporations such as Samsung, Lotte, and SK faced vital repercussions for their roles in the scandal. These companies were subjected to legal action, financial penalties, and public condemnation for their involvement in bribery and influence peddling. Investors expressed concern about the risks posed by such political entanglements, leading to short-term instability in market confidence. However, in the long run, the enforcement of the rule of law and the prosecution of those involved helped restore trust in South Korea's institutions. The scandal ultimately reinforced the importance of transparency and ethical governance, improving perceptions of the country's commitment to combating corruption. Let me pass the floor to Maisie for the next section.
My name is Geun-Hye, and I'm going to talk about how South Korea can fix integrity and corruption problems, especially after the Park Geun-hye case. As most of us know, she was the president and got caught in a big corruption scandal. It really damaged public trust and showed that even top leaders can abuse their power. To stop this from happening again, there are a few things government can do. One important step is having stronger laws and making sure they are actually enforced, like punishing those involved in corruption and protecting whistleblowers who report it. Next is setting up independent anti-corruption bodies. This group should be able to investigate anyone without being controlled by politicians. Also, the government should be more transparent. Example, they can show how public money is spent by using online platforms that everyone can access. On top of that, accountability needs to improve. Regular checks, audits, and making sure leaders to do their jobs probably can help a lot. It's just as important to protect whistleblowers and journalists. If they don't feel safe speaking up, then corruption will continue. And finally, there should be more focus on building a culture of honesty, things like ethics training and rewarding people who do the right things. If South Korea takes steps like this, it can rebuild trust and help prevent another scandal like Park Geun-hye. That's all from me. Thank you. In Park Geun-Hye case, she was accused of receiving money and support from big companies in return for political favors. That's exactly what this law meant to prevent. Under the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act 2009, Sections 16 and 17 talk about bribery, which means asking for receiving or giving money or rewards in return for help or favors. Then the Section 23, which stops public officials from using their position of personal gain. Park was found guilty of using her power as a president to help her close friend benefit, something this section clearly goes against. Next section, 17A, which is about corporate liability. This means if someone in company like a director or employee gives or takes bribe, the company itself can be held responsible. In the Park case, some big companies were involved in the giving bribes, so this law would apply to them if the case happened in Malaysia. Finally, under Malaysia Penal Code Section 409 deals with public servant who break the public's trust. Section 406 to Section 408 cover the types of trust-related crimes, and Section 165 talk about public servants getting valuable gifts without any return. These also match what happened in Park Geun-Hye case. So overall, if the same corruption case had happened in Malaysia, there are clear law under which similar charges can be made.
Everyone, so I'll be presenting the lessons learned in this case study. First is abuse of power and lack of accountability. Second, corruption in chaebol and state relations. Third, gender and political leadership. Fourth, technology's role in exposing corruption. Fifth, corporate donations as legalized bribery. Next, I'll be talking about the summary, where Park Geun-Hye, the former president of South Korea, was impeached in December 2016 due to a major political scandal involving her aide, Choi Soon-sil. During the impeachment trial, President Hwang Kyon-ah became the acting president. In March 2017, the Constitutional Court removed her from office, and Moon Jae-in was elected as the new president in May 2017. Finally, Park was sentenced 24 years in prison in April 2018. That is all for the summary, and that's all from us. Thank you, everyone.